Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Jen, and welcome to the Book Refuge, and welcome to my February reading wrap-up. And I am so excited to be going over this with you. And just to clarify, if you're new here, if you've just found me recently, this will not be a catalog or rehash of every book that I've read this month. I actually do weekly wrap-ups where I talk about every book, the good, the bad, and the DNFs. So if you want to see that, you can go to this playlist here. We're only 8 weeks into the year, so you should easily be able to binge these. Just kidding, that's almost 6 hours of video because I talk a lot. And because I talk a lot is the reason that I don't do monthly reading wrap-ups or bi-monthly wrap-ups. I do weekly wrap-ups because I got a lot to yak about. Okay, your girl does. But what this is going to be is I'm going to go over my stats for the month, the things that I like to be nerdy about, the things that I like to share. This isn't for you to compare yourself to me. I do this full time, but even when I didn't, I read this much and even more. This is just the pace that I read. It's the pace that I have reached over many, many years of reading being my sole focus and hobby and the thing that I put my time and my money into, and we're here. This is where we're at. So when I go over these stats, it's never to brag or to rub it in anyone's face. It's a catalog of me. This channel is a catalog of everything I've read for the past 5 years, which is pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy and amazing. So anyway, we're going to go over those stats, and then I will talk about the top 5 reads, and I will gush about those books, right? So also things that happened this month, we'll talk about real quickly. If you follow me, you'll know I went on a 30th birthday vacation. My birthday is actually March 18th. It's coming up very soon. I'm very excited. I have some fun things planned for both here as well as on my Instagram, so make sure you're following me there. There will be some giveaways and some exciting things happening there. But I went on this vacation with my sister. We had went on a vacation to Universal Studios when my sister turned 30, and because I'm turning 30, we wanted to go, and we wanted to go in February so that it would be cooler in February, which for the most part did happen. The weather was gorgeous, and also because we went like right before some of their busy season starts to kick in, and I think we succeeded in that for the most part. It was fun. I did a vlog. It is me being very tired, but also a surprise friend shows up, which was really fun to have happen. So definitely check that out if you want to know more about that. Also, what happened is I was struck with quite a few illnesses this month that really kind of set back my reading. And that's never an excuse. That happens to people all the time, but February is already the shortest month. And then with being sick when I got back from vacation, I actually read quite a bit that week because I just that more messed up my filming schedule and stuff because I wasn't well enough to speak. I lost my voice, which is about at 90-ish% right now. We're doing good. But then what really hurt me was this past week I had a 3-day migraine, which was the type of migraine that makes you look at all other migraines you had and we're like, those were for the wusses. This is the real deal. And so I didn't do much but be curled up in the fetal position and listen to A Court of Silver Flames, which was very apropos for that book because Nesta is also kind of curled up in a fetal position in that. But all right, let us go. I do have my beautiful bullet journal right here, and we're going to go over my stats, and then we'll get into my favorites, which is the best part. It's the best part. So I was able to get through 40 books this month, so still really great. I'm still really proud of myself for that, because it being the shortest month and with vacation and stuff, I still read over a book a day. Usually I average more about 2 books a day, but I'm feeling good about it. And that was a total of 12,950 pages that I got through. So that's cool. The format of these books was I read 13 physical books, 18 ebooks, 7 audiobooks, and 7 arcs. And the new stickers that I do love so much is there's a shop that has these adorable little book format stickers, and I got those. And I am loving them. They're so cute. The there we go. Now we cleared it. The ratings of these books were, I had 3 3-stars, 4 3.5 stars, 12 4 stars, 7 4.5 stars, 12 5 stars, and 2 6 stars, although one of those was a reread, but that was still, it was awesome. The subgenres of these books were 12 contemporary, 9 fantasy, 5 dark romance, 5 fan fiction, which I have been giving fan fiction its new category this year, and I love doing that. Makes me feel good about it. 4 historicals, 3 paranormals, 1 sci-fi, and 1 erotic. So those were the genre breakdown, which is cool. The most read tropes that I had this month was by far and away was forced proximity, which is a favorite of romance authors and a favorite of mine. So no complaints from me there, that's for sure. And then also there was lots of BDSM, and that can be either like officially BDSM, or I also put it in with like kinky or dynamic play. That's how I like mix those together. Lots of fated mate, lots of grumpy sunshine, and quite a few friends to lovers in this one as well, which isn't usually a top trope for me, but it was this time, which was great. So now we get in very quickly. I like to get right into my top 5 books of the month, and I am going to do this in like chronological order that I read them. So we'll go through that. So the first one I want to chat about real quick is God of Pain. I gave this one 5 stars. This was a 2.5 on the swoon scale. These dark romances by Raina Kent don't necessarily have a very high swoon factor for me, but boy, did I adore these two. Like, I really, really, really liked Annika, and this hero is, I just had to double check, Creighton. Yep. And this was a 4 on the spice scale. All of these are very spicy, very BDSM-y, and just naughty books. So this is book 2 in her Legacy of the Gods series. And this I was reading at the beginning of the month. I did read books 2 and 3. Book 3 didn't jive for me quite as well because there were some interesting choices made with that one. That was weird. But this one, we have a mafia princess, Annika, who is actually going to like the opposite school from her brother and her, connection. So she's kind of like the bird out of water, or the duck out of water, whatever. And then our hero, Creighton, he is very like sociopathic and very like keeps to himself, but she is fascinated by him, and she just keeps kind of like picking at him and like trying to gain his attention. And he's like, you don't want to gain my attention because I would destroy you. So just stop kind of like batting at me. And then she finally listens to him and is like, you know what? Maybe I'm not ready for all of the stuff that he wants to unload on me. He is, as this title is, God of Pain. He very much enjoys pain during sex and giving pain and being dominant and controlling in that. And she doesn't quite understand that until she does. And then it's kind of like, this is like probably more than I want to take on. But then it's too late, and she's caught his eye, and he doesn't want to let her go. And there is even another layer to it, because Creighton was actually adopted, and there is some drama with his birth parents, who are both dead. The father was killed, and the mother like committed suicide and tried to take Creighton with her when she did that. And he was rescued, and he was adopted by his family. And he has been trying to find out what happened to his parents. Not because he holds a lot of love for his parents. Like, he knows that they weren't the best of people, but he holds a grudge for what happened to him as a kid and the trauma that he's lived with and the fact that he doesn't feel normal and he can't have a normal relationship with his mother and father the way he wants to because of the way he's been damaged. And he wants revenge for that. And there is something that Annika's family has to do with it. So there's that we have to be prepared for. But I just really liked this in the same way that I loved God of Malice, and the way that the hero is like a sociopath or a psychopath, like the way that he thinks and the way that is like the reason for how he treats the heroine, and not just because he's looking to like bully her or something. So also, this book was just given a new cover. Rena Kent found a hero that better represents the hero inside of it, so I may need to order that one as well, but I do currently have the original cover of this. But yeah, I want to get the new one eventually. But I really like this. Books 1 and 2 in this series just really like hit well for me. Like I said, book 3 didn't, but I'm very excited for book 4, which is supposed to be Landon's book finally, and that boy is trouble. He's trouble in every single book in the series so far, and I'm ready. Okay. I'm ready for it. The next one that I listened to and read, and is a 6-star book for me, is Children of Fallen Gods by Carissa Broadbent. So, Daughter of No Worlds was on my TBR for February, and I read that, and I loved that. That one was 5 stars. And I immediately had to continue with this, and I listened to the audiobook of this one, and this book blew my mind continually, okay? This fantasy series is a slow burn, and not just a slow burn in the relationship, which there is a main relationship between Maximus? I don't know, his name, Maxentarius, that's what it is, Maxentarius and Tisana, and I don't want to like spoil anything, but like Tisana, she has been a slave for many years. She was finally able to get out of that in the first book, in a very like bloody way. She was able to get out of it, and she had to go on the run, but because of the powers that she has, she hooks up with, I think they're just called the Order, the Order, and they agree to give her safe harbor if she agrees to like be trained by them and be like a weapon for them. And she agrees to do that if they will help her free the other slaves. And like, they don't really care about doing that, but they really want her and what she could do for them. And in book 1, she is turned into a weapon for the Order to a certain degree. Again, I don't want to like spoil things for you. Maxentarius, sorry, I want to call him Maxentarius, we'll just call him Max. He is her mentor and someone who understands the powers that she's dealing with, and so he is her mentor and trainer, and he's very grumpy and reluctant in book 1 for reasons that we learn about in that book, but even more so in this one. And they do get together in the first one, so this one is a continuing of their relationship, but also in the beginning of this book, they are at war, and they both have like different jobs that they need to do. And there's another point of view that gets introduced in this book that was fascinating to me. And the journey of this third character that gets introduced is where a lot of the like mind-blowing stuff kept happening. And I was listening to this while I was on reading sprints at the beginning of the month, and like shit was going down, and I just like could not contain myself. Like, it was crazy. It was amazing. And I had just the best time with it. And so I will be reading the third book very soon. I'll be reading that in March. I just have been putting it off a little bit because it is 700 pages. It's a 21-hour-long audiobook, and I have some other things that I had to get to before I could do that. But magnificent. It was a 6-star read. I know some people aren't loving Daughter of No Worlds that much, and like, I get it. It's a slow build to it, but think of other fantasy romance series that are a slow build. I don't like making comparisons with this book, but the comparison I've made is not just to SJM, which people are going to do because people don't know who else to compare books to, but I also have been making the comparison to Mistborn, but with spice. Now, I'm not saying spicy, we're saying with spice, but also the relationship between Max and Tasana is like at soulmate level. It's there, it's beautiful, but we're at war and we're trying to save people and do shit, and we can't just bang whenever we want to. Like, we have stuff going on. Like, it's that type of thing where you know the connection's there, you know the deep love is there, but we got shit to do. So if you don't want that type of series, I kind of can understand, but also this kind of series that I'm like in the middle of is like what fantasy romance is to me. Like, it's what it is to me. And if that's not what it is to you or other people, like, that's okay, but it is what it is to me, you know? And I can't wait to see, and I'm scared to see what happens to them in Mother of Death and Gods, or Mother of Death, whatever. The third book, I bet I have it right here. Mother. Oh, wow. Why don't I have it written right there? Well, it's happening. It's happening. Why do I not have that written right there? I held it up in a thing, but I don't know where it's at. Either way, it's happening. We're reading it, and I can't wait to see what happens. So, another one. This one was an arc that I read. I did read this one mostly while I was on my vacation. Finished it when I got back. This one came out on the 21st. This is the first in the Chessmen, Masters of Seduction by Lorraine Heath. This is a new series. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. Now, a lot of the reason for it was personal reasons in some ways. Our heroine is an orphan, or she thinks she is. And she is also doing her own kind of like female detective sleuthing type thing. And she's hired by this man to find out if his wife is having an affair. And this same wife is pretending to have an affair with our hero, because this is what our hero, the counterfeit scoundrel, David Blackwood, this is what he does. He's known as Bishop. Him and his friends all have like chess names together. That's their thing. He helps women get divorces because he had a mother who wasn't able to get out of her marriage and she ended up dying in it. And he holds that against his father. So helping women get divorces does 2 things. It pisses off his father because his name is connected with scandal and makes his father look bad. And number 2, it helps these women who are in unsavory relationships or marriages they were forced into or marriages that went bad. He helps them get divorces by pretending to have an affair with them, making sure that there is witnesses to their adultery so that they're able to get out of it. Because at the time in this book, a woman could only get a divorce if the husband wanted it, and like if there was 2 witnesses to her debauchery, her treachery. And so that is what he does. He literally is kind of like, I mean, they don't pay him to do this, but he's kind of like a fake affair to hire type scenario, which is kind of cool. But the heroine goes undercover into his home to see if she can find the man who hired her's wife, and she does, but she begins to realize there's something kind of odd going on. Like, she just thinks he's a cad and an adulterer, and like, wow, he has sex with a lot of different women, but really, like, that's not what's happening. And he is very curious of this new maid who started there, who's sticking her nose into places that she shouldn't be, and things kind of go from there. Now, the parts of this that was very personal to me is not, I realized that I said her being an orphan. I'm not an orphan, but the thing that happened to her is her mother and father were drug addicts. They were into opium, and her mother actually died doing that. She believes her father died doing that too, which I know I'm kind of like spoiling a little bit of it. But being the child of an addict myself, although it was alcoholic, I mean, it's still an addict, there is a lot of like pain there. And so she was raised by one of her aunts. So she has a spinster aunt who has been the one looking out for her and being there for her. And her aunt actually gave up quite a lot to be her guardian and to take care of her. And I really loved their relationship and the way that she is able to get closure from her past and the things that happen. I ended up enjoying this quite a bit. So I gave it 5 stars. It is a 2.5 on my spice scale. The hero is actually one who has some of the marriage issues as well, right? Because he's been helping people get divorces, so he doesn't think marriage could last. It's a bit of a trite thing for gentlemen to like have that, but he's seen the worst of marriage in both how his parents were, which led to his mother's death, and also how like he's been helping ladies get divorces. So like it's understandable that he feels that way, even if it's a bit over the top. All right, so then I actually read a very old book, not like very, very old, but about a decade old. I have been trying to read through Claire Kent's backlist. I actually made a little template on my Instagram. You can find it under my Instagram templates on my Instagram. But I had read quite a few of her books, and I only have like 8 left. And so I've been making my way through them. So this month I read Nameless and then Afterwards, which Afterwards is 2 short stories that like follow up with Nameless. But Nameless is really simple in story, but it was an emotional roller coaster of like real life that just, it gutted me. Like I cried so much reading this book, and it's not like this book is a huge tearjerker. It just felt so real. And that is something that I have discovered of Claire Kent every time I've read one of her books, whether it's her sci-fi prison series or her apocalypse survival books. She makes them feel so real, and like the insecurities that the heroine has, the way that like not being able to read the hero and what he's truly feeling until he just finally word vomits up all of his emotions. Like she just makes it feel so real, and it's a gut punch like every time. And so Nameless is a accidental pregnancy. These two, like they know each other from their past, like they kind of have a history from like their childhood, but they're not really friends. She doesn't really think that super well of him, but they meet actually at a funeral that happens in their hometown, and they have a one-night stand together. And even their first kind of like awkward hookup is really hot because there's great communication. There's like, oh, we need to change position. This isn't working for me. This is like, what do I need to do? Like, oh man, like you are getting so wet for me. Like, oh, so good. But they have this one night stand, and of course she finds out she's pregnant. And so he is actually a very wealthy businessman. Well, he's a very wealthy lawyer. He's a lawyer because she's actually in like law as well. She is like a law clerk, and she works for a judge, helping him out and everything, doing what law clerks do. Sorry, don't know too much about their jobs. But she does tell him pretty much right away. She finds out, she tells him within 2 weeks. She didn't have to tell him. This is the case of like, this could have been a secret pregnancy and he wouldn't have known, but that's not what we're doing. She says, I'm going to keep it. And he's like, I would like to be involved. And she's like, you can be as involved as you want, but I don't want you to just shower money at this. And I don't want you to like try to control me. She's very nervous about those things. And he tries his best. They definitely clash a lot about that. And what was really amazing about this one is this becomes a pining hero story. During this pregnancy, our hero becomes completely enamored with the heroine and the thought of their child. Now, he's very nervous about being a father. He's afraid he won't do a good job. And he doesn't show a lot of outward affection. All of these feelings he's feeling, he's building up inside of him. And I'm going to give like a tiny little spoiler of it because it's what led into all of the emotional things for me. So we have the birth of this child at about the halfway point of this book. So this is like, there's pregnancy. There is them like scratching itches for each other when she's pregnant. They hook up a few times while she's pregnant, which are some great pregnancy sex scenes, like of him just loving her. Like it's great. But when she has a baby, he outs himself and he's like, I want to be with you. And I want us to raise her together. And she's like, well, we are going to raise her together. And he's like, no, but like, I want you too. Like, I want you both. And she's extremely overwhelmed. Number one, because he kind of outs this like the day that the baby's born. And also he's still very like nervous about being a dad, but he wants to do it and he wants her. And she is overwhelmed and she's like, you have given me no indication of this. And this is a case of, and I've seen this in other books before and I love it, of different kinds of love languages. Because he has been doing lots of things for her, but she only sees that as him throwing his money around, where he sees it as proving his devotion. And so when she's completely surprised and rejects him at this halfway point, he is devastated and he makes a couple dumb decisions at this point. And then the second half of this book is a grovel, as well as them learning how to be co-parents and make it work. And the reason that I was just flooded with so much emotion for this is just the real, raw, like everyday ugly parts and the beautiful parts. And the first time he gets to feel the baby kicking, the first time holding the child and feeling completely overwhelmed by it, the first time there is sex after having a baby. Like, there was so many real and raw emotions in it that it just blew my mind. So this was a 5-star book. It wasn't quite a 6-star because this one does rest on miscommunication. Like that is the plot of this. However, the way that it's set up, it again feels like real world miscommunication. Like I could see these miscommunications happening to people. And so I didn't quite give this book like a 6-star on my favorite list, but I love it, and it is a top tier clear Kent for me, and I highly recommend it to you. So go get it. And then the last one I want to mention, I actually just read yesterday, and I had some beautiful feelings about this book. I really did. And that is Dear Grumpy Boss by Julia Wolf. This one comes out on March 7th. I am on the ARC team for Julia Wolf, so I got to read this early. And this one has so many great tropes, so many wonderful tropes. This is brother's best friend. This is plus size heroine. This is an obsessed hero, a very like protective, and it's obviously grumpy sunshine. So this begins with our heroine ghosting her current boyfriend. She's been dating this man for a few years, and she finds out that he has been speaking about her disrespectfully behind her back to his friends for months, including a gif of her luscious plus size body jiggling that he uses as a joke with his friends. He made a gif of a video she sent him and uses it with his friends as a joke. And so she's like, I am done with this man. And she completely ghosts him. And she calls in her brother, which in this case, his name is Elliot. Her name is Elise. Her brother's name is Elliot. Yep, there we go. Lots of that. It's cute. They both call each other L sometimes, which is adorable. Now her brother, who I 1000% know is getting his own book, like him, and there's these 3 guys in this series. This series is called The Harder They Fall. And Julia Wolf is really great with doing this. Like, the heroes always fall so hard. And this one also is a pining hero. He's actually pined after her for a few years. So anyway, she calls her brother and is like, I'm going to ghost this man. Help me leave. And so her brother is like also a wealthy businessman. And he just literally helps her uplift her life and move to the city that he lives in. Helps her get a job at Weston, the hero's business. Gets her a job there. And a place actually in the building that Weston lives at as well. So she just completely uproots her life and moves. And now Weston and his brother Miles, they've been friends with her and her brother since they were kids. They have this past together. But when Weston went away to school, she kind of needed to get over her crush on him. And so she kind of relegated him to this is my brother's best friend space instead of him being my friend as well. But the thing is, he's always had a thing for her too, but he didn't want to make a move on her because first she's 4 years younger than him. So at the time that he was having a crush on her, it was a little bit inappropriate, or as he was seeing it. And also it's his best friend's sister. So he didn't want to do anything about it. Now she is living and working there, and he starts trying to make her feel good about working there, and so he will leave her these little post-it notes and like all these like cute little things, and she just is taking it like, I don't need you to come on so strong, like why are you doing this? And she doesn't realize it's because he's absolutely completely in love with her, is what it is. So I really liked this. This is a case though of, I almost knocked this one down because of the miscommunication that happens, which isn't a full miscommunication, but the hero's fatal flaw in this is his obsession with his business. And our heroine, she has a lot of insecurities with not only her, like, her mother, and, like, there's a lot of, like, trauma with, like, her mother kind of basically, like, forgetting about her, and then just stuff with that. So she has abandonment issues with her mother. And then she also has, like, abandonment issues of like this man that she thought she loved, her ex-boyfriend, who was slowly pulling away from her and then, you know, doing these things behind her back. And the main crux of this book, like the conflict, is our hero, when he gets too focused on business, he will forget everything else, and he will kind of like push her away because he's like, I gotta focus on business right now. And she tries to be understanding with that, but it's also like, you can't just completely shut off from me. Like, are you going to do that when we're married, when we have kids? Or are you just going to shut them out? Like, that's not what I'm in for. So he has to face some demons about himself and how he's going to do that. But the reasons why it did bump up to 5 stars is that him being obsessed with his business got him in trouble in more ways than just messing with their relationship. And he has a wonderful grovel and resolution with her that was satisfying for me. Also, the love he has for his plus size queen, he's obsessed with her, and it's great. And there's also so many little cute things that he does that I forgave it, and I was like, you know what? If a miscommunication or an issue is going to be an issue in a book, like, I'm okay with how it went down with this one. That's my personal preference of how it went, and I went with it. So there we are. So there you go, everyone. Those are my stats for February 2023, as well as my top 5 favorite reads. Let me know what your favorite books of the month were. Let me know what you're going to be reading in March, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.